Coach, I'll start broadly here. The construction of your practices in general, what do those look like?
I think it starts with just repetition for all coaches. And, for me, I've been lucky that before I even got to this level, I had 6 years of head coaching at junior college. And so at that level, we probably were getting through, let's just say 100 practices a year. So that was, 600 reps before I got to this level. And then, working with such great people, obviously the great Don Meyer and then Randy Ray and Jeff Linder. I've been pretty lucky to steal from a lot of people. So when I construct my plans, I've changed a lot, through the course of time. For us at this Division I level, we start early June. We had 8 weeks with these guys. And now it's not all full team practices. You do some skill work and things like that. But now that our teams are so new every year, we are doing some 5-on-5 and some big picture stuff earlier than I probably want to, but just trying to get the team going in the summer. And then so you start with like, okay, what do you want to put in the summer, right? Like, what are you trying to get to? So the way that I do my stuff is I line out all 8 weeks in the summer. Like, let's just start with the summertime. I line out all 8 weeks. I line out, are we trying to put offensively? We have 5 families that we want to, eventually install. Do I want to try to get all 5 families just a little bit installed in the summertime? The first thing before that offensively, we have to install basically our fast break game. We play fast, and so our secondary and primary breaks, we want to get those in right away. Like, forget all the plays and stuff like that. I don't really care about that stuff. But how do we attack? Anytime a shot's missed, we're not going to slow down and run a play. So I got to teach our guys that. And then I think so the primary and the secondary breaks, which we call sprint to scores primary, and early offense is our secondary break. The next thing, which is the same importance, is we have to teach our guys how to attack pretty much every type of ball screen coverage, right? And we don't run every ball screen coverage defensively, but from an offensive perspective, we want to teach them how to attack switches, hard hedges, laterals, deep drops, ice, all that different stuff. So as I get back to my 8 weeks, I'm kind of writing in, okay, this week's going to be a little bit of an ice attack. This week's going to be early offense. This week's, and so I try to put that stuff in on the big picture stuff. And then you look at the defensive stuff, and we could go through at some point. I know I sent you that Excel sheet, which has all of our master drills list. And we can talk a ton about that. It's got our all the way from our basic defensive breakdown all the way to our 5-on-5 compete stuff. And I use that checklist a lot to sprinkle in different things. And that's a fluid document. When I meet with my staff, we look at that, what's relevant, what's not relevant, what do we want to add to that? And so that we're getting in all the different vitamins, all the way to the 3-on-3s, to the 5-on-5s. So now I'm sprinkling, okay, on the defensive list, what am I trying to put in the summertime in these 8 weeks? Because you can't do it all. You're on limited time restrictions, things like that. And then the biggest thing, though, is, I haven't even talked about skill work yet, but we're gonna have 2 or 3 skill sections in every practice. If we're talking about a real practice, it's not just all big picture, Smiley 5-on-0, 5-on-5. We're gonna do a lot of skill stuff sprinkled in throughout, starting from day one all the way to pretty much day 150 when we get to the league tournament. And so we do all that stuff, and we are going to compete every single day. Like, that's the one thing. And it might be 1-on-1 to 3-on-3 to 5-on-5. But one thing that I stole from Coach Linder, who I think is one of the greatest coaches in the country, and I had a chance to work with him for 4 years here, is, on the tail end of his time here before he went to Wyoming, is he started really growing the idea of, I want as many 5-on-5 live possessions as possible. And so I stole that from him. It made total sense. And if you go through the math and say, look, if you can get, team A is getting 30 possessions a day on 5-on-5. Some teams get less than that, right? Maybe they get 15 possessions. And we're hitting 75 to 100 possessions of 5-on-5 a day. Well, if you extrapolate that out through the course of the season, how much more big picture stuff you're getting, offense, defense, compete. We do a ton of that. And so I think, in any practice plan, I know we'll look at one of the ones, which is an early official practice in the fall. If you look at how much we want to compete on a typical day, that's been the biggest thing, is I want to play as much 5-on-5 as possible. I think that's the biggest way to learn the system. And I'm not just saying play open gym, roll the ball out, but in different constraints, different ideas. And that's where that practice grid is going to come in too. I think that's the biggest thing. So I know I'm kind of rambling on, but we want to start with, for me, let's just say the summertime, 8 weeks. I'm scribbling on paper. I want to accomplish this, and this in week 1, week 2, week 3, week 4. And then how do you funnel that down and drill that down to some concise practice plans? That's how I kind of do it.
It's funny. The question I get a lot is, how do I get my players to be more competitive? How do we grow our competitiveness? And I think compete. Do it a lot, do it all the time.
Yep. And then, we're blessed at this level because we have a big staff and we have great technology, right? So even though we're not the big boys, the Power 5 guys, Division I'm allowed to now have all my staff on the court. So now you got, I think, up to 5 assistants could be on the court. So that's great. And then we film everything. So when the practice is done, the film's uploaded. And that's where the teaching comes into it. I don't stop practice very much. We're not giving coaching clinics out there. We get out there, our guys start to understand our flows and our drills and this and that. And it's quick teaching points. And so the practice moves. I don't condition them a lot. I believe that they're going to get conditioned through them just moving in practice. But the competition side of it, we're going to have a winner and loser in everything. And, and it's going to be quick. Okay. Oh, you guys lost, run an 11, run a 22, whatever it is. Let's get on to the next thing. But there will be time or score competition all the time.
I think the challenge maybe some that aren't at the college level have, which still interested to hear your opinion on this, is the idea of, yeah, I'll play a lot of 5-on-5, but my players aren't even skilled enough to be able to do the 5-on-5.
Right.
Where do you find that balance, especially for like the high school coach that does feel like they need to do player development? They don't have the luxury like we do of individual workouts and skill work and that kind of thing, but still making sure that they're competing and getting better individually.
Even at our level, we still do a ton of skill work. We've been known for developing players. We've had a really good track record with that. So even at the high school level, for sure, you've got to keep the skill work in there. I mean, every day starts with offensive vitamins, defensive vitamins. Before we get really moving with stretching and the different basic stuff we do, that's going to be the first 20, 25 minutes of practice every day. And so we do the same thing. But I do think even if the high school coach say, hey, we're not at a point in time where we can't compete 5-on-5, I think at some point you're going to have to get through that. You're going to have to roll it out there and get them going. And then you clean up the mess. It's going to be a mess. It's a mess for us too. I mean, our first 2 weeks of summer, I look around the staff like, man, we're terrible. But then you kind of just you get through that messy, gross part, and then you can start to figure out what you need to work on. If you don't do, in my opinion, if you don't do some 5-on-5, you don't even know what you need to work on in the big picture. You might have a great skill guy in a guard perimeter, like, oh, this guy's really good, he's really skilled, and you put him in a 5-on-5, he has no idea how to play. You need to figure that out quickly, I think. If it's high school, you might have these kids for 2 weeks that come in from football, right? So football guys, you might have 2 weeks. To me, like, you need to play a little bit and figure out kind of what's going on early in the progression, because you might have games coming up just not months from now, but weeks from now.
I'll go ahead and pull this up. The follow-up that I have that coaches always ask, because I've had guests on that talk about their vitamins. What are those for you?
Well, you can see, like, and that's like my cheat sheet for the defense and rebounding side of things, which we try to put a lot of time into it. I think people will say we're kind of more known for our offensive efficiency and this and that, which is great. And we always recruit to offensive talent. I'm not going to lie to you. We got to have talented players. We got to have skilled players. But then I do think we put a lot of time into our defense. So, like, if you look at that list on your screen, it goes from the vitamins. Like, we don't do every vitamin every day, but it's kind of like an a la carte menu of me to say, okay, we haven't done charge and wall up real quick. We need to get that done, or 3-minute rebounding. Another reason I know this is because we've been showing recruits this, but we've been in the top 30 to 50 of the country in defensive rebounding for the past 4 years with teams that are not that big or athletic. One of the things that we do a good job of without getting them hurt is like a 3-minute rebounding, which is just a very basic thing. It's like, it's myself and Coach Reed on one end, while on the other end, Coach Green and Coach Clope, they might be doing charge and wall up. They might be doing different stuff. They might be doing an offensive vitamin. But it's just a very basic thing that our guys, by the end of the day, they're so sick of it. But it's like, hey, we're going to go 3-minute rebounding, which maybe only takes maybe a minute and a half or 2 minutes. But they do their contest, 2 hard steps. Then they do their these are all kind of condensed words to fit into the Excel file. But Supermans, they do their check and chase or check and confront. Then they do their wedge, and they do what we call the whip. And so I don't just create a ton of new stuff every day. It's not like we just live on this sheet, but this sheet helps me a lot. Like, oh, wait a second, we haven't done 3-minute rebounding in 6 practices. We need to get back to this. You look at, like, to the right side, the Reed series. The Reed series, it's kind of like our shell with a little bit more intensity to it, and then we can flip that into live as well. But it could be explodes, it could be exchanges, cutters, DHOs, whatever it is. But just doing some basic stuff early on, and then we might say, hey, we're going to this, and then when I blow the whistle 3 times, pop, 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 now we're live, because the guys get so bored of all this stale stuff. The transition defense, we're going to hit transition defense every single day. And you can see we've got basically 9 to 10 different options. We could go riverboat. We could go advantage. We could go DYJ rebounding to go, and that's kind of like in that middle left. Or we could go 5-on-0 to blowback. So one thing we could do is all right, we just installed a couple things before practice, right? Like maybe we put 2 or 3 things in our away series. Very stale, very slow. We haven't even stretched yet. Just installed a couple things for 3 minutes. Well, now we want to get to some live stuff and compete on transition defense number 5, where it says 5-0 to blowback, right? I'll bring the blue team out and say, okay, let's run a way 2 flip. Now we just put it, in walking terms before we stretch. But now, hey, let's go way 2 flip. Let's go live, make or miss, whatever shot you get out of it. That ball has to go through the net. And now we're going to go blowback. So now those 5 guys on the baseline, they rip that ball to the net and they go. So we try to, and this always changes. We did the Spain break, and then we stole the Spain Razorback. Like there's these different ways to attack things, and we'll steal from everybody. But if you look at it, we basically have 10 different ideas on transition defense, and I might only do one of those a day. So if I did them all equally, which you probably don't do them equally, but if I did them all equally, if I did Riverboat on week 1 and I went through the whole progression, right, I probably don't get back to Riverboat till week 3 because there's no more than 5 practices per week. You know what I mean? So this is just all the different things, the team rebounding, whether it's wedge or it's DYJ or whatever. We're going to sprinkle these things in within the first 30%, 40% of practice, and they are live and they are competitive. There's a time, there's a score, there's different ways to do it. Losers are going to run, and so we'll hit all that stuff. And then if we stay on that kick, like the flows, well, what are these flows? These are not live, like red flows, and that's kind of on the go just up a little bit, column 15. Yeah, there you go. So flows, like red flow, switch flow, white flow. Well, our basic ball screen coverage last year was red, which was like our hard hedge. So we created a couple flows, which aren't live, but we really pushed the guys to do them at live pace offensively, where our guys are getting the scripted movements, the rotations, things like that before we do go live. So we'll hit flows every now and then. Oh, now we think we're going to be in a lot more switch mode in this game. We haven't done it in 2 weeks. Before we just start playing switch live, I'll do a switch vitamin and then we'll go switch flow. So they're getting these reps in before we go to live. So you can just see all that different stuff. We do a ton of one-on-one, guard the ball team. That is those are all one-on-ones, wall up, ride the dribble, win the first dribble. And you can just see this is not everything we do, but boy, it gives me a good script, right? If we haven't hit screening action for a while, kind of on, looks like line 29 on the right side screening, we got a way to go away flare floppy in like 2 minutes where we can hit away flare floppy, and that's not live, but our guys are like, hey, you're guarding drivers, so you better shoot the gap. Now you're guarding a sniper, you better lock and trail, right? So on the defensive side of things, I want to make sure that we never neglect some concept too long, and this helps me just say, oh, we need to get this thing done here, right? So
I never want to give the impression that these small-sided games is like brand new. I know coaches have been playing breakdown drills and 3-on-3 and that kind of thing for decades. However, I do think that coaches are using them more. And I can just see from this sheet, like this is what outside of 5-on-5, it seems like you're doing a lot of this kind of thing. And I just wonder what have you seen in regards to the players' overall development, whether that's how quickly they pick up on concepts, transfer, anything like that. What are some of the tangible things, benefits of practicing this way?
Yeah, well, I think if you talk about the competitive stuff, like the best or the smallest small-sided game is one-on-one, right? And we always say, hey, man, like you have to have some individual responsibility guarding your guy. Now, that would be like, you could guard on we'll have 3 different hoops going on one-on-one. We might have Coach Green go and win the first dribble where a guy's coming at you live with that dribble live. Then you have Coach Reed doing dribble downs, which is like our booty ball or Barkley ball or whatever. And we mix these groups up. And then we have another guy doing resistance in the post or, rotating from a tag or on a filled ball screen or something like that. So you build that. Then, our small-sided games like our 3-on-3s and 3-on-4s and things like that, most of those are created out of rotations. Like we got to teach our guys how to play out of rotations. So I love those things. And I do believe that the whole part whole is still good, right? Like you got to show them the big picture. Then you got to break it down. Like I don't want people to get misconstrued that we're just playing 5-on-5. We're not doing that. But as you get through these small-sided games and these concepts and these little things, I want to get to the 5-on-5 quickly because I do want to play more possessions than other teams in our league are playing because I think we'll grow quicker. I do. I think that's the best way is to get these 5-on-5 reps because ultimately a 3-on-3 and a 4-on-4 is great, but there's 3 to 4 of the players on the court that are still live human beings that they can be a factor in the equation too. And so as you kind of get your conceptual stuff down, once you get to the 5-on-5 stuff, I think the reason it works for us is we do have the film. And then we can break the film down on a big picture with me. Every one of my guys is assigned a position coach, and so that they get their film broken down by their position coach, and that's how we really grow. If you don't have as much of that, I understand where coach said, well, we're just playing 5-on-5. I can't teach it that well. I do understand that at the younger levels, but I think with the film, we can tie it together.
I think it's a really great point you talking about, like going just from like 3v3 to 5v5. I get the sense sometimes like coaches just think, well, just do the formula is just tell me what to do without observing what your team needs. And the reason I say that going from 3-3 to 5-on-5, you're introducing 2 more defenders and 4 more players, which significantly impacts space, decision making, what they see, everything else goes along with
Yep.
it. My question is, do you build a 3-on-3 to a 4-on-4 to a 5-on-5? Is that sheet, because that sheet the coaches are, I know coaches are going to ask me for, when
Yeah.
they look at that sheet, is there like a 3-on-3 version of 4, going back to your 1-on-1, is
Yeah.
there a 1-on-1 to 3-on-3, 4-on-4?
I think conceptually, yes. And I think for us, it's probably 1-on-1 to 3-on-3 to 5-on-5. Probably is what we mainly like. You'll see on that sheet. There's some 4-on-3 rotation overloads, things like that. I don't think we do a ton of 4-on-4. It's mainly 1-on-1, and we don't do a lot of 2-on-2 as well. It's 1-on-1 to 3-on-3 to 5-on-5 is probably, if we were building it that way. Offensively, like, we do a lot of stuff out of what we call like our sandwich, right? Which is like top of the key, the wing, and the corner. Well, when the ball gets sprayed to whoever to the top of that sandwich, the top of the key, then we have certain things we do. We might cut the guy through. We might get to what we call as a razor, which everyone calls a zoom. There's different things we do. We might do that 3-on-0, but then we'll play it live 3-on-3, so that when we do get to the 5-on-5, they have an idea on both ends of the ball, offense and defense, what to do. So I would say, yeah, we build it 1-on-1 to 3-on-3 to 5-on-5 would probably be the flow of that.
Let me bring up this sheet again. You have on there the 5-on-5, and you've said this a couple of times already, but this is not roll the ball out and play
Oh yeah,
5-on-5. But I do think that would be interesting for people to hear what that looks like. And I even see a couple that stuck out to me was like the Elam ending and the junk section.
yeah.
What kind of constraints, incentives, adjustments do you make to turn those into something where I'm assuming you're trying to get something specific out of it, not just balling, hoping whatever thing
Yeah.
that you worked on or what you want to appears in that 5-on-5 session?
Yeah, so like line 46, 5-on-5 compete, and it says grid. When we do get to the practice plan, we'll get to the grid. There's 3 things. It says WTP half court execution, WTP half full, WTP half full, right? WTP means win the possession. As we're it's not 2s and 3s. It's did you score? You won the possession. Did you get a stop? You won the possession. And so we'll do like a WTP grid a lot. I love it. That's where I can kind of control a lot of different things. What's our ball screen coverage? What's this or that? So we'll get to that when we look at the practice plan, but that means win the possession. Other ways we do it, those like 5-on-5 compete. So you got number 4, which is the 4-minute war, and get to the media. We'll build practices out of like scrimmages saying, okay, we're going to play 3 4-minute wars. It's going to be the end of the first half, 4-minute war. And so our person on the scoreboard makes up a fake score. It's 28-28, 4 minutes left. Now we're creating situations out of that, right? 2-for-1s and things like that. Then like the second one, just get to the media. We'll put like 11:59 left in the game, right? So we're already at the under 12 media for us. Make a fake score up, and then boom, once we get to the under 8 media, when there's a foul or a dead ball or whatever, we kill it. But that's what get to the media means. Then we'll play the 4-minute war into the game. Totally different situations. It's a great way to do it. And now it's a lot less hands-on. Like the win the possession grid, it's very hands-on. It's a little choppier. It's half court, come back, half court, come back, half court. Now we're going half full. But the 4-minute war is a lot. Now they're going a little bit with some constraints in terms of the time. Grab the wall is an old Coach Linder one. That's a great one. Perfect possession is a brutal one. That's where like you have to get in our world a full 30 seconds of perfect possession on defense. And we got coaches on the baseline, sidelines. I'm up top, and all we're doing is watching the defense. And like if one guy doesn't talk, boom, blow the whistle, start over. If one guy doesn't get through the screen, blow the whistle. If one guy's not, in the proper spacing, blow the whistle. If they score, blow the whistle. If they get an offensive rebound, blow. If they don't contest a shot, now that's a brutal one. Offensively, you're just trying to screw up the drill, trying to get a good shot, trying to get a clean shot, trying to get an offensive rebound. So it's still dual purpose, but that's a really hard one. Now, like 7-point game, we stole that from a podcast last year. The guys over at Mega Basket in Europe, I stole it from them. It is awesome. And so all it is it's 0-0. You're playing live. You score. If you score like 2 points or whatever it is, you're up 2-0. But to lock that 2 points in, you got to get a stop. So you're up 2-0. The other team comes down. They hit a 3. You go back to 0. They go up 3-0. But then they got to get a stop to lock that 3 points in. It's one of the most competitive things we've ever done, and we stole it from somebody else. You look at all that stuff, and like you said, like the Elam endings, and I'm so bad explaining the Elam ending, but we do try to do it. It's like you get to a certain point, then it's locked in after that. I always have my staff help me on that. We've done that a little bit. The junk, before you get to the junk, the 3 horns and grab the hat, that's special situations. And so we might be in the middle of practice going through skill work, and then I'll have our person on the scoreboard, and they know it. All of a sudden they go, boop, 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 and they hit the horn 3 times. Both teams run over. We got a hat. We got like 7 random situations. Someone draws it out and says, okay, there's 11 seconds left. Blues up 1, and they have the ball. Got to get it in. And so we'll play a quick situation just to keep them stimulated. The junk, though, if you scroll up just a little bit, it's the highlighted stuff. Okay, yeah, free. So junk, number 3, those are our junk options. Diamond, triangle, 2-3, maybe 2-2-1, back to a 2-3 or 1-3-1. We don't run a lot of zone stuff or junky stuff, but we have to go against it. So we might say, hey, let's put a little junk in there, right? So now we're going against a 1-3-1, and our guys are not ready for it. Hey, figure it out, right? And so we just throw some stuff in there like that as well. But you can see there's a million different ways that we do 5-on-5, and it could be very constricted for me with the grid, which we'll look at, or it can be more like, hey, we're going 4-minute wars. And, we change the teams up, all the different flows up. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it.
We had a version of perfection that we did. We call it Pride Drill. And
yeah,
there was I wouldn't advise this, but there was a Saturday. We literally did it for about an hour and 15 minutes. And it got competitive, got a little heated, but it was, again, one of those that really aided in the competitiveness of our practice and our team, and turned out to be a really good team that year, and one that competed and won some close games. And a lot of those close games come down to special situations. And this was another one where we started practicing special situations day 1 this year and spent more time on it than we ever have. We won more close games than we ever had before. And so my question to you is, how often and how do you, outside of what we just have, maybe this is it, just what you have up here on the screen, but how often do you practice those special situations?
A ton. We try to get them in all the time. I try to sprinkle them in so much. Sometimes it might be a theme like, get it in, where it's like, okay, it's 3 or 4 different situations on, like, you're up, you just got to get the ball in and you win. Maybe it's full court, maybe it's in the 3-quarter sideline, the front court sideline. It might be BOB, it might be a blob where you just got to get the ball and they got to foul you. It might be, you're down 2. A really good situation is you're down 2 and they're shooting a free throw, 1 free throw. So you might be down 2, you might be down 3, right? And that changes the complete dynamic of what the game is. Defensively, it does too. Like if we're up 3, we're going to foul. If it's under 10 seconds left, we're going to foul and make them play it out. So we try to do situations all the time, and we try to sprinkle them in early on. It's ugly, it's gross, but we try to, in so many ways. Now, my opinion, though, is if you make it stale, like, hey, we're going to do 5 situations today, they get bored with it because the offense comes over. You got to explain it. The defense is sitting there waiting. That's why I like doing those wars. It could be a 2-minute war. It doesn't matter. Like, hey, there's 2 minutes left in the game. It's a 3-point game. Let's see what happens. Because about 6 things are going to pop up in the last minute. Then you can break down the next day and practice. Hey, like, this happened for both teams. And so I like sometimes to do it unscripted as well.
Let me pull up now the other practice sheet.
Oh, yeah.
This is just a day's practice plan. Can you kind of walk through this, and then I have a couple questions regarding it.
Yeah, and truth be told, I thought this was a good one because I saw that it had the grid on it, and so I didn't even look at what this plan is. But you can see it's 9:30, so it's September 30th. It's our 5th official practice. At that point in time last year, we probably already had 20 or 30 summer practices, 10 to 20 fall workouts. And so now we're further along. This is not like the 5th time we've been together, but it's our 5th official practice where we can go longer. Go to the end first, just so I can show the grid, and then we'll go back to this thing. And hopefully there's not too much sensitive information, but that's perfect right there. Okay, so there's the grid. So you could see it. Now, this is a bad example in terms of how I was trying to sell this because these are actually wars. You see how we did this? We did a 4-minute war. We did a 3-minute war, 2-minute war. We changed the teams. We did a 4-minute war. So this is actually like a real scrimmagey practice at the end. I wish I would have sent you one where we could find the grid where it's like half court execution and then half full and then half full. Where that would have been shown is in the flow section, the far left. It would have said half court execution in the orange, and then it would have said half full in the gray, and then it was shown half full in the blue. If that makes sense, and I can find one later on and send it to you too for your people. But the way that we create the grid is we create the action, and these are like where our families come into play. So it's like 50 series. I want to work on that. The low series, the away series, the through series, and the swing and the indie are kind of lumped in together. So the blue team, when they're on offense, they're going to run something different than the gold team, but it's still out of 50. And then it's out of low, it's different stuff. So, I mean, there's a lot of stuff in this thing. Then you can see here what blue's running, what gold's running. Then the ball screen coverage, right? So the ball screen with the B/S ball screen, the first section, we were going red mode. Then we were going switch mode. And then we were going white mode. So we'll change the ball screen coverage as well. Now we're covering that. And then the double the post stuff, we call those fires. First section, no fire, played straight up. Second section was fire. Then the very last section, no fire. And then the press and the junk stuff, right? So if we did a free throw, we want to press on every free throw for both teams. And so you can kind of see all this different stuff that when teams come and watch us practice, when coaches come and watch us practice, and they see this, that's the one thing they will always want to talk about. It takes a little time to organize, right? Obviously before practice, but man, it makes it roll smooth. It makes it roll so smooth because we have a blueprint of what we want to do. We're not just, let's do 50. Well, what do you want to run in 50? What's our ball screen coverage, Coach Smiley? It's already done. And so, like my defensive coach, Coach Reed, he's the guy that comes into the huddle and says, hey, here's our ball screen red because he's the defense guy. Coach Green is our offense guy. So if I'm with blue, he's with gold. So he's handling the offense with gold. We all have specific roles we're trying to do. Coach Klope's our special situations coach. So he handles the press and the junk because that's kind of what we would consider special situations. So it gives us detail as well.
Yeah, perfect example, organization, taking the time beforehand, but
Yep.
it's more than just running smoothly once the practice starts. I think the clarity allows you to actually switch things and the players don't get confused and left behind for sure.
They love it. They when I pull the grid out, we're like, oh, the grid's here. And so they start laughing about it. But no, it gives them clarity and we get a lot done.
I would assume that it allows you to keep the pace moving, which then allows you to accomplish more and probably also keeps the guys engaged longer.
Yep. Now this practice completely sucks for what I try to with a normal practice because this was more of a scrimmage day. It's such a bad practice, but you can still see that this would be for us. This was probably a Saturday. If I went back to whatever September 30th was, we probably practiced all week, and then we try to finish our week with scrimmaging. So this is actually a bad example, but it's okay. We gave them this definitely was a Saturday because it's 8:15 in the morning. We don't practice in the mornings during the week. We practice at 1:00 in the afternoon. So this was a Saturday to finish the week. Gave them 10 minutes on the clock, put the music on, put the beats on, get them right. Assistants grab them, whatever it is. But let's get a good flow to the practice. Then let's stretch. Then we did offensive VITs, vitamins, perfect passing, 3-on-0 litho series. Went to post perimeter. Did another vitamin 3-on-0 Charlotte series on the left side, and then we played. So, this is a bad example. Where's all that defensive stuff that, I just showed on that spread? None of that's on here because this was scrimmage day. And I'll send you a better one as well so your people can look at it. But the flow of these practices, this is a good example. We don't stop. Hey, it's 10 minutes here, it's 5 minutes here. We use that clock, and we keep that thing moving. But again, this was more of a scrimmage day. You can see we did the 4-minute war, a 3-minute war, 2-minute war. Then we did free throws, at 9:25. And then we probably did, if you scroll it down just a little further, we changed the teams. I got it all color-coded in there as well. That's when we changed the teams up. Then it's a 4-minute war, 3-minute war, 2-minute war. So, yeah, you can kind of see how we did the whole thing. But like I said, I sent you a bad one. You could see the teams. They got all that organized. Blue versus gold round one. And you can see the guy that's highlighted, Roddick. He was our walk-on redshirt, good player. But at that point, I was, hey, if no one's gassed, you're not going to play in this thing. But if someone's gassed, Roddick, you could be blue or gold. So we did round one. Then we changed the teams, the highlighted red thing. Then we changed the teams around two because I want to have guys in different spots. I wanted de jour as a point guard, but then as a 2 guard. I wanted to have Sane as a 3, but then Sane as a 4. So all this is predetermined long before we hit the court.
I saw at the beginning you have the shots, but I was wondering, is shooting a standalone skill that you usually do during practice to get volume shooting, or is that something outside?
Well, we'll do a lot of shooting during practice, more organized than say 10 minutes on the clock shots. That's just to kind of loosen up. But in a normal practice, like I said, I sent you a bad one, but in a normal practice, we'll have probably 3 sections of post perimeter. And so you'll have, and I view perimeter as 1 through 4. And so the post guys might be the coach Reed, and then the perimeters might be all together, or we might split them into 2 groups. It doesn't show that on this plan other than at 843. You can see that, right? 843. There was 1 quick section of post perimeter where we hit swing shooting, and Reed was doing his warrior work. That will usually pop in 3 times during practice in either 5-minute or 4-minute hits.
That's something, again, that I did differently this year. It was one of those where for last several years we did like a block of shooting at the end, and then changed it this year to have like shorter segments, and it seemed to almost kind of like break things up, give them a
Yeah.
little bit of a rest mentally. And then
Yes.
we were able to get back to like 5-on-5 stuff and competing stuff and that kind
Yeah.
of thing.
That's how we do it. We try to break it up, quick hits, different concepts. It might be swing, now it might be pull shooting, now it might be spot up and movement shooting. Yeah, so different ways to do it, but we believe in just, we're going to do skill work all the way through the year. I mean, if you looked at this just, on this deal, if you start 8:15, I mean, there's about 50 minutes of skill work in that thing. For us, we're going to chunk in those little post perimeters throughout practice. And I think you're right. Give them a mental break from all this 5-on-5 stuff and all this conceptual stuff. Like, hey, let's get back to the skill stuff for a little bit. It's a good way to segue to a different concept in your practice too.
I see the free throws on there, the 3-minute free
Yeah,
throws. How do you, the
love it.
question I always get, how do you practice free throws? Do you
Yep.
practice free throws at
Oh
your
yeah, we
practices?
do. We do all the time. Different ways to do it. Stole this one from Don Meyer as well. Forgot about it for a few years and then started doing it again, and we liked it. It can be 2 in a row or 3 in a row. We have 6 hoops in our practice gym. So when you're on a main, if you only have 2 hoops, this won't work. But for us, we got 6 hoops, 2 or 3 guys per hoop max, because we have like 15 guys. And basically on this one, if you make 2 in a row, as soon as you miss, your partner goes, right? But if you make 2 in a row, you got to scream at the scores table, and like it's kind of a joke, right? But you got to scream "Clope," because it's kind of an honor of him or whatever. But it makes them talk, and the gym gets really loud, right? Like we're always trying to get some energy in our gym and get loud. But you make 2 in a row, "Clope," and then the guy at the score table, 1, 2, 3. So with the 6 hoops combined, if it's a 2 in a row day, you got to make 75. Sometimes we do 3 in a row. So if it's a 3 in a row, same thing. Like you make your first, you miss your second, next guy goes. You make your first, make your second, make your third. That guy screams "Clope." If it's 3 in a row, you got to make 40. And that, again, that's in 3 minutes. And so you're getting a ton of reps. I don't want them to rush their free throws, but they're moving. And as it gets down to it, they start to learn like, hey, we're running out of time, guys. Then we take, hey, cut the crap, all the dribbles and stuff. Just put that thing in your pocket and shoot it, right? Don't just go crazy, but like take the crap out. Okay, set it, shoot it. And I think there's a benefit to that sometimes. Then we'll do like, sometimes we'll do free throws at the end. Got to make that 8 out of 10 to finish practice. Sometimes we do 20 free throw attempts, blues on one end, golds on one end with clap game. If you make it 2 claps, you miss it 1 clap, it's 20 free throws total. There's going to be a winner and loser. We do that a lot. Like after we do 2 or 3 competitive things with a score, we finish it with 20 free throws with clap game, but you're not getting a ton of reps. Free throws are hard because it can stall practice out, but we do it a little bit.
Is there anything that you are thinking about or just considering going forward, either in how the game is moving or just improving upon what you're doing, that you're looking to evolve as a coach in?
Oh yeah, we're always looking to evolve. I mean, it's funny looking even at like the spreadsheet, the Excel sheet. There was about 6 things that we added last summer, and I take a lot of staff input. We look for ideas. We try to steal stuff. There's so much on everything now. This type, podcasts and YouTubes and this and that. Like I said, that mega basket 7-point game, which has turned into one of our best competitive games, especially early in the season. I stole that off a podcast. So we certainly don't think that all of our stuff is original and that, like, hey, like, if it sounds good, let's try it. But we do have a framework that's worked here. For really, I've been here 8 years going into my 9th year. So I don't want to reinvent the wheel ever. I want to keep going with what I'm comfortable at. I want consistency for our guys, but then let's sprinkle in some new stuff in the old school college days, you might have a guy here 5 or 6 years. Now you might not have him here 5 or 6 months because of the portal. But, when they're there for 5 years, yeah, you got to make things a little bit, you got to juice things up a little bit and make, you're trying to get to the same end, but like, how do we tweak this a little bit just so they don't get bored? You don't want robots. And that's why I was telling guys, no robot activity, no robots.